Hi, I'm Father Tim from Holy Family Parish in Adrian, Michigan, and welcome to another edition of the McIntire Catechetical Moment. In this and future moments, I will answer a question about or touch upon a topic related to our Catholic faith. In this edition, we will look at the Catholic understanding of conscience. Conscience. So, just what is conscience? Conscience is the capacity to evaluate or reason and choose or will a course of action according to the law that God has written in our hearts. Again, conscience is the capacity to evaluate and choose a course of action according to the law that God has written in our hearts. Our conscience may fail through, first, scrupulosity. Scrupulosity is an overly harsh thoroughness that results from a lack of humility. And second, laxity, which is when we choose not to inform our consciences. We don't care about our consciences. And third, our consciences may fail when they are not properly formed due to an insensitivity to the guidance of the Holy Spirit. Regardless, even if our conscience fails, we are still responsible for the consequences of our words and actions. In the definition of the word conscience, I used the words, the law God has written in our hearts. The law God has written in our hearts. This law written in our hearts by God is known as the natural law. The natural law, which is the universal moral law given by God in the very act of creating human beings and open to being known by the light of reason. The natural law, the universal moral law given by God in the very act of creating human beings and open to being known by the light of reason. In the Second Vatican Council document, Gaudium et Spes, chapter 79 or paragraph 79, natural law is referred to as the conscience of humanity. The conscience of humanity. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, the natural law is also known as the Decalogue, or the Ten Commandments. And the Ten Commandments are given to us in the book of Exodus, chapter 20, verses 1 through 17, and then again in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verses 6 through 21. The natural law or the Decalogue are the guidelines for right and just living, the standards that guide our consciences to make the good and true decision. The natural law, the Decalogue, tells us what to do, or, on the other hand, what to avoid, so that we can live in right relationship with God, with one another, and with our very selves. I'll close this McIntire catechetical moment on the topic of conscience with two thoughts from C.S. Lewis regarding the natural law. And C.S. Lewis writes that we humans know and trust the natural law. And he says the proof, the evidence that we know and trust the natural law can be found in the fact that we make excuses. If we didn't believe that standards had been naturally, universally, and immutably established by God to help guide us and to guide our consciences rightly and justly, then why are we so anxious to make excuses? And notice that it is only for our behavior that contradicts the natural law that we search for explanations to justify ourselves. So yes, we know and trust the natural law. Secondly, we human beings break the natural law. We sin. However, as St. Paul wrote to the Romans, where sin abounded, grace abounded all the more. Where sin abounded, grace abounded all the more. And we'll talk about sin and grace in upcoming editions of the McIntire Catechetical Moment. But for today, I hope that you've enjoyed this McIntire Catechetical Moment, and I'll see you the next time.